Welcome to Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing. What if you could learn from experienced real estate investors, find out what got them to where they are now, get insight into their daily habits, and take these insights to inspire your own growth? Each week, Jonathan Green shares an in-depth look at the mindful approach to real estate investing. Jonathan is a real estate investor, advisor, and coach, as well as the founder of Streamlined Properties and the team leader of Streamlined Properties on Market, brokered by eXp Realty. Whether you are looking to start from scratch, get to the next level, or just a straightforward and honest approach to real estate investing, Jonathan seeks to provide a free mentorship program you can take with you anywhere. Now, here's Jonathan.
Welcome back to another week of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing. As always, I'm really appreciative that you're here listening. That's what helps podcasts grow. In addition to writing 5-star reviews, subscribing, following, sharing with your friends, we have a great show this week. I'm really excited about this because I grew up driving for dollars with my dad. This week we have David Lecko, the CEO of DealMachine, the app that helps you drive for dollars. I've used it. You're going to learn about it, but we talk all things real estate investing. Let's go. This is episode 72 of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing with my guest, David Lecko. David is the CEO of DealMachine and the co-host of the DealMachine Real Estate Investing Podcast. If you do live under a rock and don't know what DealMachine is, we're going to talk about it, but DealMachine aims to unlock the true potential of real estate investing for everyone, from seasoned professionals to aspiring newcomers. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jonathan. It's great to be here.
Yeah, man, I'm really excited to talk to you because I've always, my whole life, been driving for dollars, and then you guys have this platform. But let's talk about what your real estate journey has been. When was the first time that you remember being interested in real estate?
Yeah, I was actually, my life was pretty rough because I was working for a small tech company. And I was not only the software developer, but I was also the tech support and the trainer. And when the software was utilized a lot, I would have to bring my computer with me to the bar or to a restaurant, and even in my friend's wedding. And I would get these calls and I would have to fix the technology from my hotspot with my laptop. So I literally slept with my computer under my pillow. And I learned a ton at that job, but it was like 2 years in, Jonathan, and enough was enough. I had to get some of my time back. The owner of that company also had 5 rental properties, and that allowed me access to ask him, like, why do you have these rental properties? I thought stock market investing was the way to build wealth. And what he told me, I'll never forget, because it's driven my actions for the following, 8+ years of my life where I'm at now. And he was like, David, the stock market can go up and down at any time, but your real estate investments, if you buy them right, they're going to cash flow and give you cash flow every single month as long as you buy them right and you manage them well. And if there is appreciation, then that's just icing on the cake. But the thing is, like, you're guaranteeing these results. And we all know the number one rule of investing from Warren Buffett is don't lose money. And so I thought that was pretty awesome. And that was in 2014 or 2015. So that was the first time that I got interested in real estate investing.
Yeah, that's why I asked, because I feel like it comes to investors and creators at all different parts where it's like, wait, why didn't I think of this before? Once you just got started and you started kind of on that trajectory, were you like, why wasn't I thinking about this earlier?
Well, I was quite excited, but I was quickly deflated by his final comment, which was, well, I bought these right after the 2008 crash. So there was lots of deals around, but I don't know if you could find deals like these anymore. And so I was quickly deflated, man, and found some hope reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And then I found some hope going to a real estate meetup. I found people who do deals this month, right? Like, they're doing deals right now. So I got really, really excited, went out driving for dollars. They're like, because you don't have a ton of money and because none of the houses on the MLS will cash flow, you should go look for a rundown house, get in touch with the owner by sending them a letter asking if they want to sell their house quickly and with cash. And then if they call you, you could do a deal, fix up the house, and still have a really, really great deal because you bought it at such a discount because it was in disrepair. So I started doing that, excited, But then, I mean, I was like 2 months in writing down these addresses and I saw one under construction and I ran home. I was like, I'm pretty sure I had this on my list. I did, but somebody had just bought it and for a price I thought would have made sense for me. So I was like frustrated as all heck because I missed out on this after putting in 2 months of work. So I basically made like a little widget on my phone with the computer skills that I had. And it would just let me pin the house and look up who owns it and have another company send the letter. So that was like something I just put on my own phone as a next step.
Yeah. So at the time, you weren't thinking that you were going to turn this into something. You were trying to activate it for your own investing journey.
Correct. The only success I wanted was like, this got me a great rental property. That was the only success I was hoping to get out of it. And gosh darn it, Jonathan, the only reason why I even put it on the App Store is because someone else at the meetup, they saw me show it off and they're like, hey, I come to Indianapolis once a month to buy 30 properties per month. And I would be happy to spend $1,000 to try any new marketing. I'm always looking for an edge. And I like about fell out of my seat because it turned out like I wasn't trying to sell it. They just offered me $1,000. So I was like, all right, let me get it on the App Store. Let me figure out how to like load $1,000 worth of mail in your account and let's go. So then once it was on the App Store, some other people started to download it and I was like, man, I think other people want this. So that's when I realized DealMachine could be an actual business.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I mean, there's a lot of things within this. One, it shows the power of meetups, which I think are so important. We've been holding meetups for, 4 years and we were doing them during the pandemic. But there's something about meeting the people in real life. Like you said, it's like, wait, these guys are just doing this and they just told you what to do. Listen, just go out, drive your car, look for dumps. Here's what to look for. Real estate investors love to help each other. And I think until you go to a real meetup where there's like no pitches, you don't understand how much. Like really, DealMachine came from, if you didn't go to the meetup, it might not exist.
Man, that's a good way of putting it. And so true. Absolutely.
Yeah, I've just found that it's really a thing that a lot of people like to do work solo. So they're thinking like, I can do this. And they think that it's competitive. And they don't realize that all investors, most like investors really are like not competitive. There's plenty of properties out there. Were you in Indianapolis at the time when you were doing this?
I was in Indianapolis. That's right.
So
you're right. I was shocked by how much people wanted to help each other. It didn't make sense. I was like, wouldn't you be competing with each other? But everyone just wants to help.
Yeah. I mean, look at how many houses are out there. And I know people are like right now, they're like, oh, there's no inventory. It's like, no, there's inventory. It's just not for sale. And that's exactly why you went driving for dollars, because they told you like MLS is not where you're going to get your best deals. They're still out there. All you have to do is drive, use your eyes. And then, of course, you can use something like DealMachine to supplement it. I think it's really interesting that, and especially so that someone said like, hey, I'll use it. And you're like, okay, let me just try to activate this and get this going. But so when did you get into your first property? And then we'll turn around and get to the growth of DealMachine too.
It was about 9 months after I sent my first postcard. I'd sent a postcard like every month and they called me back. And that was in probably the end of 2016, beginning of 2017. That was when I got in my first property. And luckily, it was such a cheap property. I got it for $4,000.
Oh my God. What kind of property was it?
It was like a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 600 square foot house. This thing was tiny, but it was on like a regular sized lot. And so it was the perfect project for me. I got like $60,000 into it with renovations that I actually funded with credit cards. So I was all into the property, about $65,000, and then rented it out right away for like $1,000 a month. So it met beyond the 1% rule. So it was a great first investment for me.
Yeah, I did. Once you got that, and then of course got through the renovation, which is always like another can of worms. But then once you secured the rent, did that like unlock the next level for you? Like video game, you're like, wait, okay, I can just keep doing this. And then later I can help other people do this.
Right. Because at first I see videos, it works for Jonathan, but I don't know if it works for me until I've actually done it. So yeah, once I did it a few more times, did a few BRRRR strategy deals where you can recycle the money you put in it in the first place. And I've, held those properties to this day. In fact, I wish I would have bought more now that I've had them for like 5+ years because they've appreciated so much.
Yeah, especially with Indianapolis has become a trending area, and you were doing it there before. So, I mean, that's what I always say. It's still, you can identify places in your local area, especially when you know that the larger city of, where the price points are good. And like in the beginning, you didn't have a lot of money to burn. $4,000 for a property is good, but you did have to put in 60 grand to get it, out there and rentable.
That's definitely true. Yep.
Yeah. So, and you did that multiple credit cards. Did you just go get 1, 2, 3, 4, just max them out? And then
I did all.
Yeah.
I got them all on the same day because I was like, I'm going to trick whatever system out there keeps track of how many credit cards I have. I'm going to try to apply for all of them. And so I got 4. And then the biggest credit card was like $22,000. And yeah, I had a couple other ones as well. That was the biggest one.
Yeah. So after this first investor asked you at the meeting how you were doing it, what did you start to think when you decided, like, I guess other people might use this? How did you start to develop that? Because I think it's really interesting because it's definitely an app or that a lot of people know, but it's also a strategy that to that point had never been turned into something.
Yeah. Well, I think the beauty of it was I wasn't trying to change anyone's behavior, but I was just making it easier to do what they were already doing, which was driving for dollars. So I think that was a huge key to success. And I just made it easier to look up the property and send mail at the most basic level. We do more now, but that's all it did. And that's a lot of what people use this for today still. So yeah, I was able, at first it looked very terrible, Jonathan, because it was just for me. And I'm not I like things that look good, but I'm not good at designing things. So it was functional, but it didn't look good.
Yeah.
So anytime somebody found it and I had the keywords on the App Store, driving for dollars, so they found it, I would see them sign up and I would make a phone call. Each phone call required 30 minutes to explain, hey, this is how it works. This is what it can do. And so it got to a point where I was doing not a lot, but you do 8 of those phone calls per day. You get tired of repeating yourself.
Yeah.
So that's when I asked my best friend, who I knew is a good designer and a developer. I was like, you got to come be my business partner. Let's make this a legit business. Let's form the LLC, which, I was just an app under my name before that. And you got to help me just take over the development of this so I don't have to call everybody who signs up. So that was the next step, Jonathan. And I didn't really, make investments until I needed to, or had a little bit of traction like that.
Yeah, and even though you're fairly young, you still were doing it the old way that I did with my dad, which is writing stuff on a piece of paper. That's what original driving for dollars is. New investors don't understand. It's like if you're by yourself, you have a pad, you pull over, you see a dump, you stop, you write the street, you write the number, and then you wait till later to go look it up. That's how you started, right? And that's what spurred this whole thing.
100%. Yeah, that's exactly what I was doing back in 2017.
Yeah, me too. I remember riding in the car with my friend Christine. This is not that long ago. I don't know, 6 or 7 years before the apps. And I would call the street, Smith Street. And then while we would drive, we would say 7, 26, and then just do the research later. I mean, that was fun. But then later I did find DealMachine and I was like, damn, this is a lot easier, and you can see everything that happens. Do you feel like that activated more people's ability to become investors because they were maybe a little more tech friendly and they wouldn't be able to didn't want to go out and just drive and write on a piece of paper?
Yeah, it helped me, Jonathan. I'll say that for sure, because I was driving and writing down, but I wasn't following up. So I think as humans, everybody has this issue of following through is difficult, especially when it's so monotonous and repetitive. So by that standard, my answer is yeah. We've helped a lot of people become investors.
Yeah. And I think the activity of being able to get a piece of mail out means you're in action. Because if you're just logging properties, okay, you're going to get, analysis paralysis. Oh, I'm going to look up the data. I'm not sure, what it is. But to be able to press and send a postcard is huge, because then it's ooh, I've taken action. Of course, some people might send one postcard and be like, oh, this doesn't work. But that's really a big action to take, because that's something that, takes a long time to do. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a great journey and I'm super thankful for it. It was well timed because people have been doing this for decades. Right. And I was really thankful I was able to bring in some of my knowledge and help a lot of other people, even though it was just for myself. It was just selfish at first.
Yeah, but I mean, you realize the time to turn it into something with the help, again, of a real estate meetup, which is why it's so important. And I think something like driving for dollars, it does require these mini partnerships. It's very hard to do on your own, even with an app. It's good to have partners, meet other investors. Did your investing journey also take off just because of meeting local Indianapolis investors who were obviously helped you get started, but then continued to help?
It's a business model that nobody knows about. And you have to be around people that have succeeded in order to be successful, because otherwise you'll have doubts about, is this business model legit? Am I really going through all these no's or people who are uninterested to get something good at the end? And unless you see that, how could you keep going? I couldn't. I know that. So that's why I would say meetups are hugely important. Being in a community of people who have done what you're trying to accomplish, immensely important. Here's another example. My parents were so proud of me that I got an engineering degree, and then they were so terrified I was going to do real estate investing. They sat me down and they're like, David, we just want you to get a nice house and a nice car. Why are you restricting yourself, living with roommates and driving this, 15-year-old car, and then risking it all on this real estate investment? They're like, we talked to everyone we know who had an investment and they had a horrible experience. The tenant trashed the house. And I was like, guys, I appreciate it, but I'm going to do this anyway because I'm talking to people who are successful. And if I hadn't been to meetups, I wouldn't have been able to say that. So I would have got scared by their stories.
Yeah. And I think, just to touch off the meetups part, meetups are so important because it's not the type of people that you think before you know anything. It's literally just like anybody, it's the millionaire next door philosophy. It's just like some person that you would see on the street and then you realize they have 37 rental properties and you're like, what? That's the thing. You go to these meetups and you realize like, I can do this. Anyone can show up at a meetup and realize like, I can do this. Don't need a formal education. You just need to be able to follow the steps that others have done before, have a little bit of money to get started. Sometimes you don't even need it if you're helping someone else. But yeah, that community it's so important. I just think it's cool that it really started from you just going and taking the action to go to that first meetup.
I think it's so cool too. And Jonathan, I couldn't even make this up. It was the December meetup. They were raffling off an iPad and I won the iPad. And I immediately turned around and sold that thing for cash because I was, I was like quitting my job and like starting to work on this full time.
Yeah.
But yeah, the universe just aligned for me.
Yeah. So now over your years, obviously building DealMachine, talking and working with so many investors, what are some things that you see real estate investors struggling with now, especially in today's market?
One thing I see real estate investors struggling with in today's market is, they think because the interest rates are high that they can't do this business anymore. And I'll tell you, we've grown DealMachine this year. We've grown this year more than the last 3 years. And most of the people are just, they're getting started in real estate investing. So I'll just say, you've got to be around people that are doing it. Otherwise, you get these negative thoughts. So I would say in the current climate, that's one thing that's actually affecting people mentally. But if you think about it, when did that person I worked for, when did my old boss tell me he bought all his best deals, right? It was like after a crisis. So it's like in these tough times, in these moments of change, investors are needed the most because if there's a problem, they won't be able to sell it on the market as quickly. And so that's why investors do provide an awesome solution. Now they have to figure out how can they package it up and sell it because maybe there are less hedge funds buying right now. But I'm hearing a lot of creativity out there. So instead of just doing a standard wholesale deal, my friend in Minneapolis is actually doing what's called subject to. So he lets the person keep the loan in their place with that low interest rate, and then he will wholesale it to a buyer, and he'll still take a $20,000 fee from the buyer, but the buyer gets to just inherit the mortgage with the low interest rate. So he's doing a ton of those. So just altering the strategy a little bit has allowed the people who are successful to even do more deals than they were doing before.
Yeah, that's a great point. But that also goes to what driving for dollars can accomplish and now what you can do with DealMachine. It's not a one note. Your job is to get in the door. Once you get in the door, eventually, then you have a whole plethora of options that you have. You could buy for cash. You could get a traditional mortgage. You could do sub two. You could walk into seller finance. But until you get in there, you're not going to know. And the only way you're eventually going to get in there is if you're looking for properties that maybe just from the look of them have a higher likelihood of becoming available.
Yeah, absolutely. So You've been in the business for quite a while. How come you actually drive for dollars? You still drive for dollars, right?
I would like to if I had more time. But yeah, I mean, recently I still do. I actually really do, because if I'm ever in a neighborhood that I think is interesting and I have like 15 minutes to kill between appointments, I will go old school like I did with my dad and just drive, write down any properties. I use Siri now. Like I'll just say, Siri, remind me to look up 123 Main Street.
Awesome.
That's the way that I learn, and I think like your eyes are the thing that can start you off. And then it's still going to be follow up. You have to go back and take it. But, visually, you can identify what's a higher probability to be a property that someone might want to get rid of just based on how it looks. And that's where you're hedging your bets for doing like more efficient learning than just, getting a random list and mailing everyone. If you're doing the driving and seeing it, you guys make it easy. You can click. I remember I would pull over, pull it up, see that, look at the equity percentage, be like, ooh, crap, 94%, like, let's go. And then you can do it. But I think visually identifying is a great way for new investors to really like learn as well, because then you match the dump with, ooh, absentee owner. Like, this is great.
Have you actually made any changes now that the interest rates have gone up in your own business?
Yeah, good question. I mean, for me personally, like as a long-term investor, I haven't been buying, but that in no way means I'm not looking. I literally look and nurture clients and off-market seller all the time for years, because my nurture technique is one that like I won't even ask about the property multiple times when I call. And that's what I think some newer investors, they're so gung-ho to do it that the only conversation they want to have is, can I buy your house for cash? And you're like, but you don't even have any cash. So why are you using that dialogue? Like you have to do, you need seller finance, or like you said, sub 2. Yeah. So I'm always looking, and I'm waiting until everything gets, I don't know. I wouldn't say a little bit better, because like you said, if everybody is withdrawing from the market, that's when I'm in the market. I'm just watching, because I'm in New Jersey. So the deals just are not there.
Yeah.
But
it's
like
a little bit different in New Jersey compared to the Midwest.
Off-market sellers are insane. Like they think they have like, full list price offers. So we're having a little, trouble. But again, there's a cliff in every market where when it's a seller's market, it's like that for a long time. And then all of a sudden there's a 1-month cliff where everybody starts to realize you're not getting what you thought you were going to get. And remember, you have to sell. So now you're in trouble, because now we're all coming back for the property.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Well, when those interest rates come down, the price is going to skyrocket whenever that happens, right?
Yeah.
So I'm always of the mindset that I am not going to try and time the market. If I was going to try and time the market, I would have never got started, because my mentor told
you not to.
Yeah. He's like, you can't get these deals now. These were back in 2009.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, so Ricky Carruth always says, every day there's deals being made. So for someone to say like, oh, there's no deals, like the deals personally just aren't good enough for my buy box right now where I am in New Jersey for local investing. But there's literally closings happening every day. I'm watching them. I see them on the MLS. I see them happen with people that I know are in wholesaling. So like they're happening. And I think like if you want to be a good real estate investor, you're never off. You're never on a pause. You're just looking at the data, looking at homes, driving homes, and it takes a lot of follow up. It doesn't take one postcard. If it was one postcard, we'd all be rich, but that doesn't work like that.
Sometimes it is, but most of the time it's not. Yeah.
And I mean, again, I think another cool thing that you can do at DealMachine is you can use, your guys' custom postcards. So you could drop in a picture of the house. That was like a game changer for me, honestly, because the thing that I used that for is I used it for what I call the concerned citizen letter, which is I take a photo of the house, I send it immediately, say, hey, Bob, I don't know if you know this, but your house at 123 Main Street is actually not in that great shape. I see you live 2,400 miles away. I just wanted to let you know, I'm happy to swing by and I'll send you the same postcard every month with an update of how the house looks. That's unstoppable. Nobody's going to say no to that. And I could achieve that by using that. So it's so easy to just be able to take a photo and then send it with the dialogue. And then I would adjust, the dialogue for my own on there. 100%.
Oh yeah, whoever designed that DealMachine system is a genius.
It really works. I'm not even blowing smoke. Like that thing works. And I think like it like we were saying before, it's the ability to be able to use something that will make you take action. The data's there. You can press a button. It doesn't cost a lot to send one postcard just to say like, hey, okay, I got out of it. And like, honestly, if you're looking at the right houses and you're identifying the right sellers, you might get a call on the first postcard. Then you have to figure out what to do after that.
Right.
I think
that's actually, yes. Oh, I was more scared of not rejection, but I was scared of somebody saying yes.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, what do I do now?
Yeah. How did that go though on the first one? When you finally got an opportunity and then you're like, oh shit, now I have to like do something.
Yeah. I was like, when can I come to your house? And then we set a time. I was like, I got off the phone as soon as possible. I was like, okay, I'll see you then. And then when I got there, I was like, hey, I'm going to get back to you in 24 hours after I take a bunch of pictures of this house. So literally I just went and took pictures and I was like, okay, bye. Like leave as soon as possible. And then I called him back and then I gave him the offer, but I didn't know what to say. So I kept saying, well, I'm going to do this and then I'll do it. And then I'm going to leave now.
Yeah.
So
yeah. They're like delay techniques.
So I can think about it. Yeah. So I can think really good and hard about what I'm about to do next.
Yeah. But so now after all your experience, what would you tell someone who gets in the door the first time?
Yeah. It's okay to say, I don't know. I've never recalled a script. I've looked at scripts. It's helpful to look at scripts, but when the phone rings and you're at the gym, you don't have the script in front of you. So you just got to remember like a few key points. And honestly, I just I focus more on them than trying to remember the script. Because if I try to remember the script, I'd miss what they were saying. So yeah, that was it. Just try to think, what's my next step? Yeah, probably just meeting them. So now I can't do that because I'm investing virtually, even though I moved to Austin, Texas. So now I can see a script right in front of me. That's great. I always start with it and then I just veer right off,
Yeah. Well, scripts are
more natural.
Yeah, scripts are there so you have the background information for when it comes up. But if you're locked into them, everybody knows. Because what always happens in a script is you ask A, they're supposed to answer B. So then you go to C, but they didn't answer B. They answered B like minus. And then you ask the same question that's a follow-up to an answer that they didn't even answer. And then you're like, wait, that was stupid. So I'm the same. I said, just focus on the person, because what people don't realize is they get into the minutia of the script to find out like how many beds and baths, what's your heating system. I'm like, dude, did you even ask them where they're going? If they don't know where they're going, you're not buying the house. Like They have nowhere to go. They are going to a nursing home if they're old, or they need family to take them in. They're not. And even if they say, oh, I'm going to Florida. Great. Do you have a place yet? Oh, no, I haven't even started looking. What are you going to do? Buy the house, kick them out, and just send them to Florida so they can buy a house? That's where the short-term thinking doesn't make sense. And investors have to realize you're not walking in on one postcard, making the deal, giving the cash, getting the property, wholesaling it out to somebody else all in the same day. This is a long process.
Right.
Hey, this is Jonathan. Thanks for listening to another episode of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing. On this brief interlude, I wanted to tell you that we have a mailing list. I actually don't love mailing lists. There's so much. This is not an automated mailing list where you get on a drip campaign. These are written once a month, will eventually be at once a week again by me, direct, and they're not spammy. So if you want to sign up for our mailing list, you can go to bit.ly/streamlined with a D mail. Bit.ly is bit.ly/streamlined mail. See you there.
What did you do on your first deal? Tell me about that.
Oh, God. Well, my first deals were all with my dad. So I was doing deals literally from, as early as I can remember. Well before I was 18, I was involved in deals. But my dad's specialty was going to yard sales. We would go to 5-10 yard sales just because he liked to buy cheap stuff. But he would find gems, and he would probably made an offer on every single house at a yard sale. He'd say, hey, where are you guys going? First question. And it's funny because as a kid, I was resistant to his knowledge. And then when I turned 21, I was like, wait a minute. I had already bought properties on my own. And I'm like, wait, how do I know how to do all this? And it was like that. So the first real property that I bought on my own, I bought in Florida. And it was like, it was in a development where all the houses look exactly the same, like classic Florida, shades of brown ecru. And I just bought the worst one of 8 that was available. All I did was recarpet it, repaint it, fix everything, make it look pretty, live there for a year, and then turn it back on the market. And I made like 25,000. This is like 2000 or somewhere around there. And I was like, wait, this is what my dad's been doing. And he's like, he was still alive at the time. He's like, yeah, this is the whole point. Now you're finally getting it. So there were properties that he had in my name before that I eventually took over and sold too. But I think that was the first time I really learned, like, wait, this isn't that hard. Like you said, you did a 4,000 and then a 60,000 reno. Like, that's a lot. I did like lipstick, and I was like, this really is easy. Because when I sold my house a year and a half later, this is before, internet MLS, like 4 of those 8 properties were still for sale. Mm-hmm. Like, stuff used to just sit on the market forever because it was all like old people's homes. And I just turned it and made it look nice. And like, that was pretty easy.
Yeah. I love it. Well, that goes to show it's really important to be around people who've done the business. In this case, it happened to be your dad.
Yeah.
But you could find it's important to be around others that are doing what you want to achieve.
Yeah. And I mean, for the listeners out there, we've both said it now, like, real estate investors love to help people. I wish everybody would just get that. Go to an investor meetup. Don't ask for money. Come having done some knowledge and ask some really good questions, and you will get great answers. But you can't just ask, like, how do I become an investor? No one has the magic sauce for that. It depends on, what your goals are.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Yeah. So what do you think some other issues are that investors have in terms of like getting started? Because I really think that DealMachine is a platform that can help people get started. Where have you seen investors like get into this analysis paralysis mode, which is what everybody always talks about?
If somebody quits DealMachine, they say it doesn't work for them in their market. I will check in with them and I'll say, well, hey, how many, properties did you add to your account? And they say 11. And I'm like, yo, you gotta add like 500. Okay. You gotta add like 500, and then you have to communicate with them. And so I struggled this when I was brand new. Okay. I lived in Carmel, Indiana, nice suburb. A really crazy rundown looking house was in my neighborhood, and it had giant bushes that were as tall as the house, blocking the entire window of every window that was there. And, peeling paint on the side and stuff. I was obsessed because I was listening to podcasts like this one about how you can make money from these kind of houses. So I was just obsessed. I would look at it every day. I would drive by it every day, spent so much energy. Jonathan, to this day, that house still has not sold. Okay. So in other words, you got to add a lot more houses, and don't be obsessed about the one that you found near your house.
Yeah. And I think people look at modern technology as like an all-in-one. Like, they're going to say like, hey, look, this is cool. I'm going to sign up for DealMachine. I'm going to press a couple buttons, and then the leads are going to call me and just offer houses to me. And then they'll also help me get financing, and they'll close the deal, and then they'll put it back on the market. Like, it's not that easy. And I do think that's the issue. That's why I think it is important that you guys say that, like, hey, how many, like 11 houses.
Takes work.
Yeah. Like,
it takes some work.
Yeah. And I think, again, a lot of people struggle because they get into investing as a side hustle, and then they realize like, wait, this is a real job. And the people who turn investing into a business is because they treat it like a business, not a job.
Right.
And,
hey, I got a personal question. Can I ask that?
Yeah, for sure.
Tell me about the name of your podcast. You call it Zen in the Art of Real Estate Investing. And so I feel like what I end up talking about is the math of real estate investing. Add 500 properties, communicate with them, send 6 postcards each. Can you tell me a little bit about where you find the Zen and like the artistic side?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. I feel like we're doing a back-to-back interview. It's great. Yeah. So, I mean, the podcast surrounds the mindful approach to real estate investing. And there was a time when I had my on-market business that it was just going too crazy. And I had to just check out from real estate for a year, on market and off market. My kids were still younger at the time. And I could see myself, I wasn't paying the attention that I needed to. I was always on my phone. Things were always coming in off market and on market. So when I powered down for that year, I just went like really deep on my own personal mindfulness, how I'm going to get through this. And what that helped me do is activate a lot of skills that I had from negotiating as an attorney, and then put them into a more mindful approach, which is focusing on people, like we were saying, and not properties. The properties are all owned by people. So the more that I can focus on a person is a much better approach. But also when I think about the mindful approach, I know you'll appreciate this. To me, the biggest power you have in real estate investing is the ability to walk away. And the desperation principles of new investors make them feel like, well, I have to buy because everyone said take action. It's like, no, if you got in the door, you took action. You're doing a great job. You don't have to buy the deal because it's the only one you've seen. You might want to, but the more that you're saying, you know what, there's too many people here. Like, I don't want to do competition. They'll always come back to you, or maybe they won't, but who cares? So for me, I feel like investing as a whole, especially now with like social media and how much it can get out there, there's a lot of BS out there. So I try to focus on how to focus on the people, because I feel like the best investors, not the richest investors, the best investors are the ones who are like, I want to help these people get a win-win. I'd like to get a good deal on the house. I'd like them to feel like they got a good deal. And then if I wholesale it or sell it to someone else, I want to feel like they got a fair deal, and then they can go sell it later. And then that's like real estate investing 101 right there. Can everybody win?
Oh yeah. We were already talking about it. We were like, you don't have to worry about the script if you're focused on the person.
Yeah. And that's it. I mean, because that's the answer for, hey, you got in the door, instead of crapping your pants, focus on the person. How long have you lived here? What do you like about this neighborhood? Where are you going from here? Oh, okay. There's lots of things there that you can do. And again, when you use, an app or a list or anything, every single person on that list has a different, want or need. So the original process of real estate investing, especially in marketing, was all like, I'll buy your house, quick for cash. It's all, every bandit sign says the same thing. 99% of those people don't have the money. Mm-hmm. And 90% of people don't want cash. They have to, they need a problem to be solved. You guys create the framework to get in there, but you can't do the work for them in the door. So the more you're focused on like, hey, how can you help someone? You're going to end up doing better.
100%. Thanks for explaining.
I really appreciate it. Yeah. I mean, I think that real estate investing, as you found from, building this company and working with so many investors, and then you guys on your podcast bringing investors, it's like a really welcoming community. But, there's a lot out there that are trying to, sell courses and do that stuff. And you could fall into a money spring like that. But I will also say, almost every product out there, even if I don't love it, if you spend money on it and you do exactly what they tell you to do in either the course or like when you sign up, it will work. Mm-hmm. It's usually user failure for every app or new system or course. Even if it's a $50,000 course, you'll probably crush it if you just do what they say, but users don't do what they're supposed to do.
That's right.
You know that because you've taken those calls.
Yeah. Well, I'm a human being too. I understand.
Yeah.
I understand it. When I'm trying to learn something new, I fall victim to the same thing. I don't blame anyone. I just want to help them.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about the mission of DealMachine, because you really wanted to make it easier for anyone to get into real estate investing. And so when you were starting, how were you, finding the people who were going to be interested in using the product, and then who are still obviously customers now?
Well, user one was at the meetup, put it on the app store for them. People found it when they searched driving for dollars. So they trickled in. And then I started going to different events to see if anyone who's hosting an event or has a podcast would like to share DealMachine with their students. And so I went to Sean Terry's event in 2017, and I try to run the circuit of any other event like that I could find out that was teaching people how to do the business. So I found some luck there. Not necessarily with Sean Terry, but Max Maxwell was there. And he was not known back then. He had 1,000 Instagram followers. And then he blew up, and he had his 5th vlog was about DealMachine. And so, that was a huge factor in letting people know about what DealMachine was. So I'm super thankful for him and super thankful that worked out like that. And like I said, that was another example of just the universe aligning.
Yeah. And relationship building, same as what we're talking about, getting in the door, build a relationship. You do that at the meetups too. You don't know.
That's right. Yeah. I often look at it and I say, wow, like that was luck. But also I did create my own luck. And I think that's something important to take away from this podcast, because you don't want to hear that and be like, oh, well, I'm unlucky. No, like you have to put yourself in the position. And you do that by having more conversations, by going to meetups, by going to conferences, or having more phone calls with sellers, in our case, of finding real estate deals.
Yeah. I mean, putting yourself, you always want to be in the rooms where the stuff's happening. And it does take a little bit of beating your own fear to get in there. Like, you're not going to be an imposter at a real estate event. I'm just telling everybody that right now. We're both telling you, you as a brand new investor who knows nothing can go to a real estate investing event that is a no pitch and you'll be fine. People will talk to you. Like at my events, everybody is greeted fine. We don't pitch anything. There's not even presentations at mine. I'm just trying to introduce people to other investors so they can learn. Because like we said, I just don't think that the profile of what people think as an investor is what it is. It's literally anybody. Mm-hmm. It could be any single person out there that you wouldn't know owns a ton of rental properties.
Totally.
Yeah. Have you found that this is always interesting for me? A lot of times when I started to do off market and you pull a list and you get an absentee owner, then when you dig in, you find out they own like 20 properties. It's like the holy grail. And that's another important thing that people have to know. Like, it may not be that property that you call on. They may have a dump on the other side of town that's even a better deal.
Totally. Yeah, they often have a lot. I've definitely found that. I've never bought a bunch from somebody, but I've heard a lot of stories where they're saying one postcard about one property turned into buying 7.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so let's talk a little bit about your guys' experience. You and Ryan, when you guys started your podcast, you're in the 30s now on episodes, right? What's that been like talking to investors? Because everyone always says like, oh, why do you love podcasting so much? I'm like, I literally get to talk about my favorite subject with cool people who know a lot about the same subject.
It is fun. Yeah, it's really fun. And recently a podcast guest that I had, he just sent me like 6 other guests that I should interview on my podcast. And I was like, thank you for this gift.
Yeah.
Right. That was amazing. So I would say this, there have been a couple downs, mostly ups in my business. But when that first down period happened, I'd been in business for like 4 years and never experienced anything like that before. And I kind of retreated inward. And that was when I really felt like, oh man, like I'm not doing exactly what I want in my business. And I'm kind of embarrassed by that. So I'm going to work really, really hard until I fix it. And so I worked, normal hours plus all evening hours, right? Just get up and did that every day. And I couldn't relax at, like on the weekends. And I just didn't talk to anybody. But that's like the opposite of what you should do. If you're ever struggling, you should be talking with other people. And those conversations, once again, help you create luck. So I will just say, I forget what the question even was actually, but yeah, I think it was like when Ryan and I started our podcast, like, what's that been like? So I think what's been most enjoyable is I'm talking to like 3 investors that I've never talked to before in many cases. And that's fun, right? That's just fun.
Yeah. And don't you find that it's like every episode you just learn something new that you can apply or bring, as a gift to other people. And it's just so interesting to see every single avenue that everybody goes through. Because like when you were telling me your story that you got the house for, $4,000, I thought of my episode with Alyssa Holbrook because she bought a mobile home when she was like a kid under 18 for like $1,500 or something crazy from like, child money that she just got, from school or whatever. Like you can start that small. And even though people are watching the national news and thinking like they need $600,000, you don't. We just said there's sub 2, there's seller finance, there's books out there that you can learn it from, there's podcasts that you can learn it from. It's just so open. And for me, podcast is so great as a listener because you can just take them wherever you want. You can do it in the gym. You can do it every time I'm driving a car. I'm always listening to a podcast or an Audible book. Like there's no question. And I drive a lot.
It's such a good medium. I love listening to podcasts when I drive too.
You get out of the car and feel like, wow, I just got a tidbit. I just like make a quick note. So over the whole time of DealMachine, what do you think the biggest lesson you've learned about real estate investors as a whole is?
Okay, the biggest real estate investing lesson that I've learned is very stereotypical. Just, the more conversations you have, the more luck you're going to create for yourself. It's a theme in this podcast, and that's a good thing, right? If you hear things 5 times, you might be more likely to remember it. So that's got to be it, is don't quit too soon. The more conversations you have, the more luck you're going to create for yourself.
Yeah, I agree. We've both put that into practice, and I think you can do it pretty easily. It's just get off the bench, edge yourself in, and figure out how it works. And again, I mean, like the way that podcasting and social media is, you can actually see the people. It's just about whether they're going to be like that in real life. So going to meetups helps take the edge off. There's always going to be wallflowers at meetups. I would be one of them. I'm like an introvert, so going to meetups is like tough for me, but I do it, and then I'm tired afterwards, but I feel like, wow, I learned something. And once you do that, like I can just keep doing that.
For sure.
Yeah, especially because the consistency. If you know that there's one in your area, like every single month, and you can just show up, like you're going to eventually be the person who's not new anymore. And then you'll feel better. You start to go up the scale of like, who knows you.
Right. Agreed.
Awesome, man. Where is the best place for people to get in touch with you? Personally, is it on Instagram?
It's on Instagram, Lecko, and that would be the best place. Send me a DM.
Yeah, you respond. It's funny. Like I communicate with most people on DMs just because I feel like most people still actually look at their own DMs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So if people want to learn more about DealMachine, they can go to DealMachine.com.
That's right.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, I've used it. This isn't a DealMachine pub. I've used it. I enjoyed it. I still enjoy it. I really think like now knowing the whole story behind it, though, it's like very, very cool for me to talk to you, get the whole story, find out that it all came from you just trying to figure out your own investing journey.
100%. Thanks so much for letting me ask you some questions too.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. All right, man. It was great getting to know you and meet you. Hopefully I'll meet you in person one of these days soon.
I would love that.
All right. This has been episode 72 of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing with my guest, David Lecko of DealMachine. I'm Jonathan Green. We'll see you next week. I hope you enjoyed that episode of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing with me, Jonathan Green. And I just want to remind you, and this is always an uncomfortable part, I don't want you to think that I'm begging for you to like, subscribe, follow, do whatever you have to do for the podcast, leave a 5-star review. But if you like the podcast and you think it adds value in the real estate investing sphere, then just do me a personal favor. Like the podcast, follow it, share it when you can with your friends, and be so kind as to write a 5-star review if you believe it deserves a 5-star review up against what else is out there. I would really appreciate it, and I hope you keep listening.